Good afternoon, everybody. So I am honored to be here. I will say I'm always really moved when we get a group of people like this together to build community and spend some special time. As we all know, this is not always in our day-to-day work, and so I just think this is a special moment to really take in today. And I will say it's a beautiful view from where I am standing. So I'm here to tell you that I am tired of being the exception. I am tired of being the exception. I'm tired of being a surprise, that I am a Mexican-American woman and I am a leader. That I grew up in the Mexican border of South Texas, one of the poorest counties in our nation, and that, yes, I am a CEO. When folks hear what I do, sometimes I see a little shock register in their face, real quick, and then it goes away. But when they register that shock, I want to ask them, what did you expect from me? Who did you see? Who do you think I would be? Maybe a lot of us are tired of being the exception of being an African-American male and a principal, a child of a migrant worker who leads children, an Asian American and an educator, a Native American with a master's in education, a person of color and a college graduate. It should not be an exception that a person of color is a college graduate and passionate for fighting for educational equity in our country and in our schools. That should not be an exception. None of us should be an exception. We are leaders, we are power, we are strength, and the struggles and stories we carry with us as people of color growing up in the United States of America make us stronger. But today, we are the exception. I'm tired of people looking at me in shock, wondering how I, given who I am and how I look, got to where I am today. I'm tired of wanting to ask, just what did you expect? You didn't expect me to be a leader, did you? You didn't expect me to say CEO, did you? That's why I tell my children what I heard from many people around me who believed in the necessity for me to lead. What each of you in this room heard from people around you, what each of you believes about your students. I expect this of you. I expect great things. I expect you to lead. I expect you to dream. I expect you to win. I expect you to graduate with honors and pursue 17 advanced degrees if that is what you want. I expect to see that. But though we believe, and we say this in our work every day, there's a great challenge for us to do this. It's a great challenge for our nation. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about that challenge, and I've been wondering, when will people of color be in positions of leadership stop being a surprise? When will it be normal that people of color, like us, succeed? Right now, it's a fight, and it's a fight that we have to have every day. So I'm wondering, what will it take for us to make those expectations a reality? I believe to get there, we've got to play to win. That's the first step. We need to commit 100% to winning, no exceptions. I was in a meeting 2 months ago with a bunch of CEOs who are committed to educational equity. And we were talking about the vitriolic nature of the conversation in our country today around change and reform and what's happening. And toward the end of that meeting, one of the participants says, I don't believe this is winnable. And I said, oh, you don't believe we've put together the communications plan sufficiently enough that you believe it's winnable? And he said, no, I mean this whole thing. And my body tensed up, and I turned to him and asked, you mean like the whole thing? Like every kid can have access to a great education? He said, yeah. And I said, what do you mean you don't believe that it's winnable? What are you doing in your job as a CEO, leading a country, making decisions for children every day, and you don't believe it's winnable? You can't be in your job if you don't believe it's winnable, because there's no way you are making the right decisions for children every day if you do not believe it is winnable. And he just looked at me and said, well, and he shrugged his shoulders. As a mother of 3 boys who are half Latino and half Black, it is clear what my kids deserve. As special as Langston, Malcolm, and Marshall are, and they really are, they are no more special than every child in our classrooms every day, and they will not be the exception. Our kids cannot afford for us to be tentative, confused, scared, or unsure. We have to work every day to ensure that no matter how hard it is, no matter how exhausting that is, no matter how much it shakes up the status quo, we've got to play to win. We've got to be asking ourselves, are we on a path to justice? A path to leadership for our children of color? If by 2050, people of color will be the majority in this nation, are we on a path to people of color holding the majority of high-paying jobs, the majority of professorships, the majority of elected seats in Congress? I don't want my 3 boys to be an exception. I expect them to be the leaders through and through, side by side, Black and brown, boys and girls, just like them. No surprise there. I don't want to raise my boys in a world where the boxes they check on the census means they are outliers when they make it to college. I don't want to raise them in a world, by some statistics in some cities, young African-American men are more likely to end up with a criminal record than a college degree. I don't want to raise them in a country where I say low-income community and all of us instantly have images of students of color. We have to fight for a world in which our children are expected to be the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, where our children are expected to be the best doctors in a city, where they will be aspiring to be teachers, principals, and superintendents, where the norm is that people ask them, where are you going to college? Not wonder, are you going to college? Or worse yet, did you graduate from high school? I want it to be a shock if they are not leaders. But the expectation and dedication alone, that's not enough to win. We would be done by now if that was all it was. What we can do this weekend, today, to move toward winning and make the exception every day is something special. I'm going to follow the advice of a wise New Orleans woman named Ruby Bridges. We all know her story. It wasn't too many miles away from where we are right now, where at the age of 6 in 1960, she bravely walked into an all-white school building, becoming the first African-American child to attend an all-white elementary school in the South. She withstood the cruelty of racist adults to open the doors of opportunity for all of us and all students, all children in our country. She once told a group of volunteers and activists fighting for justice and equity, to win, you have to share your stories. Share your stories, find common ground, and put the best ideas to work. We are not the exception. After all, look around. If we were the exception, we'd be here alone. We have our collective experiences, and we must tell our story. Our stories and our voice must be heard. I want us all writing that playbook with our stories, our reflections, our questions, and then rewriting it. It has to change. We need to discuss our progress. We need to celebrate our wins and remind ourselves it's not enough until every child in every school has access to a great education. We need to tell the story of what it means to teach for America. How do we teach for a country that systematically disenfranchised our parents, our grandparents, and their grandparents? That still just disenfranchises our neighbors and our friends, disenfranchises people in this room and our students? How do we use our experiences and hand down the expectations that people had of us to our students to win this fight? I believe we should start by sharing our stories with each other. We won't solve all the problems of school systems this weekend. There's no silver bullet that will stop making leaders of color the exception and start making that the reality every day. But we're going to share our stories. We're going to find common ground and learn from our differences, and we're going to put the best ideas to work. At Teach for America, our 43,000 core members and alumni are the authors of our story. We have 24 years worth of stories to be told, and each year the story grows. This year, 55% of our incoming core members were either people of color or from a low-income community. Our story, yeah. Our story is diversifying each year. Our story is more complex than we could imagine. And it is a story that has the power to change a nation. But only if our stories honor our communities, the communities we come from, and the communities we work in. We must tell our stories about the beauty, the assets, the richness of our students, our families, and the larger community. We must do this because the fight started long before we showed up. At Teach for America, we cannot behave as if we are temporary. We cannot behave as if we don't have real skin in the game. We are here to stay until we are no longer needed. We are here to work in solidarity with each other, with our families and communities until that day arrives. Because change doesn't happen to communities or for communities. It happens through communities and with communities. And we must unite around a shared vision where every child truly has access to an excellent education. That is our story. And stories matter and are necessary for change because they express truth. They set an expectation. Our students need us to share how we work, why we work, and what we face as leaders of color. They need to know what we have won doing this work as leaders day after day and year after year. And not as exceptions, but as the leaders that we are. Because we know what works. We aren't chasing incremental change or impact. We don't have time for that. We are working to change the normal, and that takes fierce conviction, 100%, because we're on a path to a new day, and we know what works in our schools. Creating an affirmative and relevant culture works. Welcoming and engaging families and parents works. Maintaining the highest of standards while providing the greatest supports works. Letting a child drive her own learning works. Providing teachers with quality professional development sessions worthy of their intelligence, that works. Healthy accountability works. Development of critical thinking and social emotional skills works. We've got to find a way to take what works and make it a reality for all kids. Share your stories this weekend and share your ideas. Though we've got common ground, the conversations this weekend will reach diversity of opinion and experiences. Embrace that. At Teach for America, in case you have not noticed, we are not perfect. And as a result, we've been evolving each year to make progress. We've been tailoring our needs to our local communities by allowing our scale and growth plans to be fully built from the ground up. We are listening to the voices of our communities by sitting with parents and students and asking them, what do you want for your life? We're recruiting vastly more and more core members of color, staff of color, leaders of color within the organization to more and more reflect the communities that we teach in. We've been holding summits and sessions and training core members in culturally relevant teaching. We still struggle, and we're working to improve each day. But we're making headway because we are committed. Our children must live better, have better stories than the generation before the children before them. Let's promise they won't face these same challenges we have today. Let's make sure that no one is surprised when they stand tall and lead, so that 50 years from now, they're sitting in a larger room than this, maybe a stadium, sharing their own stories with each other. The stakes have never been higher. The possibility has never been more clear. These are our students' lives, our children's lives, our cousins' lives, our neighbors' lives. These are our lives. These are our communities, our cities. These are our children, our country, all of our change, our stories. Let's win. Thank you.